been interested in canning but didn't even know where to start? Stay with us today and we're going to go through 5 things that new canners need to know before they get started. Number 1, the first thing that you need to know about are your jars. So when you purchase jars, they come in a case like this. And all the cases, regardless of what the size are, come in packs of 12 cans. And so each one of these cases comes with 12 cans that have lids and bands. These are the lids and these are the bands. One thing that you need to know about lids is once you have preserved your food and opened it back up to serve, you cannot use the lid again. So, but don't worry, you don't have to buy a whole new jar again. All you have to do is buy packs of lids. So there are 2 types of jars. There are wide mouth jars and there are regular mouth jars. So the sample jars and the half pint jars only come in regular mouth, and the pints and the quarts come in both wide mouth and regular mouth openings. I like to use the regular mouth openings for more fluid fruits and vegetables like tomatoes or jams or jellies. And I like to use the wide mouth for less flexible vegetables like pickles and green beans. So when you purchase new lids, you're going to have to pay attention to which ones you're getting. You can get the regular mouth lids and you can get the wide mouth lids. Every once in a while, your bands will wear out. So this is an example of a band that has gotten funkified, and I need to get new bands. You can buy cases of lids and bands. You can get them in wide mouth and regular mouth. And these have already been opened, but they come with a corresponding lid and band. So you can start all over with these. A quart jar holds 4 cups. A pint jar holds 2 cups. A half pint jar holds 1 cup. And a sample jar holds a half a cup. One thing I did want to mention is that after you have sealed your food in your jar, it could either be with a water bath or pressure canning, which we're going to talk about both, and the food has sealed and cooled and sealed, you're going to want to take the band off when you store it, because it could cause a false seal. And what that means is, if I have not sealed this jar properly, if the air has not properly come out of this jar, and I keep this band on, it could make the lid stick to this glass. And when I check on this jar to see if it has sealed, this would be stuck on it. And that's called a false seal. We could potentially still have bacteria and mold in this can and not know it, because this band has made this lid stick to the lid. So I wanted to mention that. Number 2, preparing your jars to preserve your food. Regardless of whether it is a new jar that you just got out of a case or a jar that you've used before and you've washed it and you've stored it. I usually store mine on a shelf upside down so that things can't get inside of the jar. But before you use them again, you're going to want to inspect them first. Look at the jar, see if there are any cracks on it, if there's any imperfections on it. And then you're going to want to run your finger around the top of your can to make sure that there's not any cracks. That's the most common way that my jars have not sealed in the past, is having a tiny crack in the top that I did not realize was there. Once you do that, you're going to want to wash your jars and your lids and your bands in soapy water. And then you're going to want to put them in a pot of boiling water. So I typically use my water bath pot, and I fill it up so that it is mostly covering the jar to about right here. And then I wait for the water to come to a boil, and then I boil the jars for 10 minutes. So I also put the lids in. So usually I'll put the cans in or the jars in, and then I'll put the lids. I like to put the lids kind of like this as I'm putting jars in my water bath pot so that they don't stick together. Sometimes my lids will stick together if I put them in the water bath pot and I have them. These are two lids right here. If I put them down like that, once they heat, they will stick together and they're hard to get apart. And it could also compromise this compound that seals the lid to the glass. So you're doing two things. With the jar itself, you are heating up the glass so that when you put warm jam or vegetables or fruits in these jars, it won't shock them. Because if you have a cold jar and you put something super hot in it, it's going to crack. So you want to have them warmed. And what it does for the lids is this is a kind of a tacky compound that we have on the inside of our lids, and it warms it up too so that it performs properly during the canning process. Those are the two things that you want to have done before you use your jars to can your food. Number 3, molds, yeast, and bacteria. So molds create a toxin called mycotoxins that can make you sick when you eat it. So molds and yeast, most molds and yeast can be eliminated if you heat your food to between 140 and 190 degrees. But bacteria, on the other hand, is really difficult to eliminate from your products. Salmonella can be eliminated at 212 degrees, but botulism can't be eliminated until you get to 240 degrees. The problem there is that the boiling point is 212 degrees. So, unless your food is high in alkaline or low in alkaline, and we're going to talk about that next, you are going to have to pressure can in order to eliminate the risk of bacteria. Number 4, let's talk about acids. So, foods are rated on their alkaline level. And foods that have an alkaline level of 4.6 or below are considered high acid foods. And those are typically going to be your fruits and your tomatoes. Yes, I know that tomatoes are fruits. And then if you have an alkaline level of above 4.6, those are considered low acid foods. So if you have a high acid food, there's not going to be a risk of the bacteria of salmonella and botulism that typically happen in low acid foods. So you can use a water bath to can your foods. And the reason why is you only have to boil your water to 212 degrees. Now, if you have a low acid food, then you're going to have to use a pressure canner like this. And pressure canners heat up to 240 degrees. That eliminates your salmonella and your botulism. And we're going to talk about those next. But your fruits and vegetables are going to be your high acids, and pretty much any vegetable other than tomatoes, which I know are fruits, are going to be needed to go into the pressure canner. Anything that you mix like a low acid food with a high acid food, so maybe you're making like a vegetable soup or certain recipes that you want to can, you need to look at the recipe and see which method of canning or preserving that you need to use for that. And it depends on if there is a majority of a high acid food instead of a low acid food. So always refer to the recipe. And again, it's going to also change most of the time based on the size of your jars as well. All right, so we're now at number 5. water baths versus pressure canners. So here's your water bath, and you're going to use this to both warm your jars and to warm your lids and to do the water baths for your fruits and vegetables. And this is your pressure canner. There are a couple of different kind of pressure canners. This one is a gauge pressure canner. It is normal for it to have discoloration like that after use. And I will say that I have well water, and so that might cause a change in the metal as well. This one is called a dial gauge canner, and this is a dial that you use to see what the pressure is inside. It has to be monitored the entire time that you're canning to make sure that you don't go above whatever the pressure level that is indicated. In addition, it's recommended to get your dial gauge canner tested every year by your extension service to make sure that it's accurate, because you don't want to have the wrong pressure, an inaccurate pressure when you're canning things, and run the risk of bacteria existing in your cans. There are some other kind of pressure canners as well. One of them is a weighted gauge pressure canner. That's the kind that Monna had when she canned in this kitchen. And they come with three different gauges, 5, 10, and 15 pounds. And they don't have to be rated or measured every year the way that these dial gauge ones are. Now, there's new technology that has come out in both the water bath and the pressure canners. And one of the things that's come out with pressure canners is there's digital pressure canners now. I don't have one. And one of the things that I've noticed about the digital pressure canners is that they're smaller. They're usually about 12 quarts, whereas this is a 23 quart pressure canner. So I can can 7 quarts at one time in this, whereas you probably would only be able to do 4 or 5 quarts in a digital pressure canner. But it is all digital, and you could probably walk away from it when you are canning. I know that these can be costly, so some suggestions that I have for you is to check thrift stores and yard sales. If you're going to check thrift stores and yard sales for pressure canners, one of the things that you're going to want to look for is to make sure that the seal inside looks good, because otherwise you're going to have to replace it. I recently got this electric water bath at a thrift store for $25, and it retails for over $100 online. Now, they have new technology. Again, this one's digital as well, but one of the benefits of having a electric or a digital water bath is that you can have it somewhere else. If you have a tiny kitchen like I do, I can put this in another room or out on my screen porch to be doing the water bath while I'm doing something else on my stove. Another thing that it benefits is if you have a glass stove like I do, sometimes it's recommended not to have heavy weighted pots like this on your stove. And so by having a digital or an electric water bath or an electric pressure cooker, you take that weight off of your stove and you can do it elsewhere. So there's a couple of other things I wanted to show you. One additional thing is, what the heck is pectin? So pectin is something that you're going to put in jams and jellies. This is a powdered pectin, and this is a gel pectin. And recipes usually call for either the powdered pectin or the gel. I recommend going with whatever the recipe calls for, because I've messed up recipes putting in whatever I had at the time instead of what was needed. So pectin is actually an ingredient that exists in fruits, specifically apples. You don't have to use pectin when you're making apple jelly. So that's kind of cool. If you buy these and you don't use them within that year, I recommend throwing them out, because they can go bad, and you don't want to go to the trouble of creating something amazing like a peach jelly or a jalapeno jelly and then it not setting. Another thing that I wanted to show you is what a lot of canners use as their recipe book. So this is the Ball Blue Book, and it is the Bible of all canners. It's got all basic recipes, and it's not just canning. It has things for dehydrating fruits and vegetables and even meats and seafoods, and also freezing them. And it's got some really neat ideas on how you can use the fruits and vegetables that you have on hand to create these minimally processed foods. So this is the newest one, and you can get it at, I got this one at Walmart for like $13. It looks like it's a little bit more expensive online, but you're going to get this in the canning section at like a major retailer. The one that I currently have, I want to show you what mine looks like. I've had it for about 15 years. This is mine. It's been well loved and wrinkled, and this is like it's cracked on the back where it's stuck to stuff. So it is, I use this all the time. And so I wanted, Ball has a couple of other home preserving books. This is another one. I don't love it as much, but if you're into maybe doing some more modern recipes, I think there's some kombucha in here and some like some fusion kinds of jams and jellies. This one might be something that you're interested in as well. I don't use this one nearly as much as I do my blue book. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. The best way to support our channel is to like, share, and subscribe. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Should I put in some comments? Comments?